So I'm going to start doing a new thing where I kind of give a rundown of what happened in the episode in the first couple minutes of the video. So this episode, Walt discovers that there's some of the product missing. What happened to the 1/4 of the pound or whatever? What happened to it? It's missing. Things aren't adding up. Jesse talks on and on and on, being very suspicious, like, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was spillage, maybe it was condensation, all of these different maybes. Well, it's like, no, it doesn't make sense. What he Saved by the Bell moment, Jesse leaves and there's a fly in the place where they cook meth. Walt's like, I can't work if there's a fly. The noise, it's distracting me. I can't. So he goes around the whole building trying to kill this fly. Jesse comes back and he's like, whoa, Walt, did you even go to sleep tonight? Like, you've been here all night and you look awful. Walt's like, hey man, we have a fly in here. We need to take care of this fly. He's contaminating the workspace. Jesse's like, how? It's a fucking fly. And Walt's like, if you don't want to help me, you can leave. And Jesse's like, dude, we have to cook. Like, I understand, we have to cook. And he just watches Walt have this like degradation of like brain functioning. Like, and it triggers him because later on in the episode, we see that Jesse says, hey, this happened to my aunt with a possum. There was a possum in the house underneath. The pest control caught it, killed it, and she still thought she was hearing the possum. She was so sure. And she was acting so unlike herself. She was agitated. She was mad. She was yelling. She wanted this possum gone. Come to find out, it was just her cancer was getting worse. It was in her brain now, affecting the way she thought. And so basically this entire episode is just us watching that same exact thing happen to Walt. As the fly is killed and then he goes home and he swears he can still hear it. So I think it's foreshadowing that Walt's condition is getting worse. Maybe remission wasn't really remission and it was spreading to his brain and he's going to die soon. He also talks a lot this episode about how he was meant to die before Skylar ever found out he was a bad person. He was meant to die before things fell apart so much. And most of all, he was supposed to die before people missed the chance to miss him. Whereas, there's a whole drawn out process of like someone dying of cancer where it's kind of expected. It's no longer this like fresh thing, such as the shock of finding out someone has cancer and them dying a little bit after that. That's still shocking and like, whoa, I have to cope with his loss. Whereas Walt, at the position he's in now, they've had time to be like, okay, his time is limited. He's probably going to die. And Skylar, a couple episodes back, even wished he'd hurry up and die when he was living in the house with the family and making her miserable. Jesse, being the kind kid he is, who cares about Walt, he goes around trying to help him kill this fly. And at the end of the episode, Jesse kills the fly. And Walt tells him, hey, I'm not accusing you. Just know that if you did steal the 1/4 of a pound, these people aren't like me. You're not going to get away with it. Something bad might happen to you and I'm not going to be able to protect you. And Jesse's like, okay, well, I never asked you to do that. And I forgot to mention it, but during this degradation of Walt's mental state, he almost apologizes for the role he played in Jane's death. Hey guys, I just finished watching Breaking Bad episode Forgot. It's called Fly though. And before I started watching Breaking Bad, I had a friend tell me about this episode. He was like, there's an episode where they literally just spend the whole episode trying to kill a fly. And I finally made it to that episode. More than just, okay, where is this going? I actually was pretty entertained by it. Like, I was this weird mix between bored and entertained. I was like, is this really all that's happening? But it does seem like Walt is losing his mind. So since not much happened in this episode, obviously this video is going to be on the shorter side. Walt is losing his mind. Now I do want to say, when the fly went to the top and Walt got on the top and climbed outside of the rail, I knew he was going to fucking fall. I knew it. By the way, he's 50. A fall like that, he's dead. He should have died. He should have either he should have a concussion, like a really bad one and a broken back, or he should be dead. Secondly, we have to talk about Jesse's little pinching a little off the cusp, pinching a little of the meth off the cusp. It's starting to add up, and Walt's like, hey, like at the end of the episode, he's like, hey, not accusing you, but if you are in fact stealing some of their chemicals for their meth, I won't be able to protect you. I need to slow down. I can't speak. He's like, I won't be able to protect you. And Jesse's like, well, who's asking you to? Which, valid and fair, but we know at this point that Walt has a soft spot for Jesse. He has to, right? After all this time, he definitely does. You know, he saved him. He's gotten Jesse's lick back more than once. So obviously, Walt feels protective of Jesse, even though Jesse does not want that protect. And where I think it comes from is like, you know, if somebody says, next time I see you, I'll give you $1. And the next time you see that person, they don't give you $1. And they're like, oh shit, next time I see you, I'll give you $1. The next time they see you, you don't get that $1. And they're like, I'm so sorry, next time I see you, I will give you $1. That fourth, fifth, sixth time you see that person, you don't expect the $1 because it's just an empty promise. And I feel like that's kind of how Jesse is with the whole Walt protection. Like, sure, he might get his lick back for him, but at the end of the day, it's always Jesse getting the fuck beat out of him. Tuco, Hank. So shit's not looking... So at a certain point, you're like, okay, well, you can't protect me. Okay, well, you don't have $1 to give. So if it's taking this long, that's fine. I don't even want it anymore. I got it from somewhere else. Like, I don't even need it. The next thing we have to talk about is Jane's death. I like how Walt finally put together that he had spoken with Jane's dad at the bar. And he's like, what is the odds? What are the odds? Like, what is the coincidence? And like the universe being this all-powerful thing, there's a reason I was sitting next to Jane's dad that night. There is some cosmic reason for that. Walt was talking a lot about how he lived too long. He outlived what he was supposed to live, because he's like, well, you know, if it takes too long for the cancer to kill you, you want the person to miss you, remember you as you were and shit. Like, now, obviously, Skylar's gonna have a scullied, you know, memory of Walt, obviously. But, you know, after some time, your death is just, okay, it's gonna happen any day now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, sure, you'll be missed, but you won't. It's hard to explain. There's like a certain level of attention that a shock death kind of has, rather than something long and drawn out. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I guess that's what Walt's kind of saying. Like, I was supposed to die, like, during the height of when people cared that I had cancer. Now, everybody's pretty much moved on. Nobody cares that much. I've just been here too long. I've been here too long. And he said that he had, like, kind of given up and he was ready to die. And that the perfect moment would have been him at the bar. But instead, he met Jane's dad, which, in his mind, that means he met her dad for a reason. And her dad said, oh, we don't give up on family. And that's what pushed Walt to continue to, you know, cook meth, pursue his wife, etc. But the butterfly effect of that is that's also what caused Walt to kill Jane. Very fucking, that's gonna be so hard for Walt to grapple with. And so you see he is grappling with it as he almost apologizes to Jesse. He almost apologized. And that would have been crazy because he would have confessed, I was there. There was something I could have done. And that would destroy Jesse. You could tell just how Jesse's like, well, hold on. What Jesse said was so fucking beautiful. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around it now. It was so fucking beautiful. He's like, it wasn't Jane's fault. Okay, it wasn't your, like, because Walt keeps apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for what happened to Jane. Like, from his mind, he's like, I'm sorry, I did this. From Jesse's mind, it's that whole thing, like, oh, my condolences. You know, your loved one died. I'm so sorry that happened to you. So they both Walt means something, Jesse understands it a different way because he doesn't know, obviously. So Jesse says, it's not your fault, Mr. White. It's not my fault, and it's not Jane's either. We were just two junkies with a bag full of money. And like, to me, that is such a meaningful quote. Not just with the two junkies, right? But like shit that happens in life. Sometimes shit just isn't people's faults. And it's just a thing that happened. Because you can drive yourself up a wall thinking, oh, if I did X different and Y happened different and the butterfly effect of Z and C squared and all this shit. Like, if you know, you can drive yourself insane going down that rabbit hole. So sometimes the healthiest thing to think and say is just, it's no one's fault. It's just a thing that happened. That's a very therapeutic thing. Like, I'm pretty sure he learned that in group. If he didn't come to that conclusion himself, which would be very fucking mature of him, but I'm pretty sure he came to that conclusion in therapy, because that's where you release guilt and negative feelings and just acceptance of someone that you love and care about dying. So he's like, it's no one's fault. It's just a thing that happened. And hey, like you said, Mr. White, the two of us would have both been dead within a week. You were right. And so this breaks Walt up even more, because at the butterfly effect being what it is, had Jane's dad not said that to him, you know, far down the rabbit hole, Walt wouldn't have been at Jesse's house in the first place. He wouldn't have left the money. He wouldn't have shaken Jesse awake. He wouldn't have tried to get him to see reason. He wouldn't have knocked Jane off of Jesse's back onto her back for her to then choke and die. So yeah, it's rough. I'm wondering if, you know, I'm wondering when Walt's gonna come clean about what happened to Jane. That is gonna be a very sad episode, especially since Jesse so obviously cares so much about Walt. He cares a lot. Like, as gross as their dynamic is, how this is like an authority figure, at the same time, this is an authority figure. Jesse doesn't have a dad. Like, he has a father. Yeah, he has a father. Everybody alive has a father, but he doesn't have a dad. You know what I'm saying? Dad implies a relationship. This is my dad. Father is a biological term. Everybody who's alive has a father. But Jesse doesn't have a dad, and he doesn't have a mom. He doesn't have a family. Like he said when he was on that hospital bed, he has no one but Walt. And so Walt, as this authority figure, is also this father figure. And we see that Walt teaches Jesse all this stuff, like all these new terms, all of this stuff, like how to basically operate the kitchen, the meth kitchen, which is, I'm guessing, you know, there's a lot of life skills in that. So he's picking up on little things that Walt does, you know, the way he cooks meth, the way he talks, all of this shit, because Walt's kind of like this father figure. And so I'm not looking forward to the betrayal Jesse's gonna feel once he gets that information. You were there and you could have prevented the death of the love of my life. That's going to destroy him, and I'm not ready to see that. Only I am ready to see that, and I'm about to watch the next episode right now.